I'm Sarah Mitchell, 26, and my birthday party just imploded in the most spectacular way possible. Standing in my childhood dining room watching my parents' faces drain of color after my single sentence, I realized I'd just detonated a family secret that would destroy everything they'd built their precious reputation on. My golden child sister Emma suddenly looked like she'd swallowed glass, and the birthday cake sat forgotten as the truth I'd been holding for 3 years finally escaped. What they didn't know was that I had evidence. Before we dive into how I dismantled my entire family's facade in one evening, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you love stories about family karma coming full circle, smash that like button because this revenge tale gets absolutely wild. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The setup for this disaster started innocently enough. My parents insisted on hosting my 26th birthday at their McMansion in suburban Dallas despite my preference for a quiet dinner with friends. Mom had already decorated with those generic happy birthday banners from Target, and Dad was manning his prized grill like it was a sacred ritual. Everything screamed obligatory family gathering rather than genuine celebration. Emma arrived fashionably late, as always in her brand new BMW that mysteriously appeared 6 months ago, despite her working part-time at a boutique. She swept in wearing designer everything, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the afternoon sunlight streaming through Mom's floor-to-ceiling windows. At 23, she'd somehow managed to afford a luxury apartment downtown, designer clothes, and frequent spa treatments while supposedly struggling to pay for her marketing degree. "Sorry I'm late, birthday girl," Emma chirped, air kissing my cheek while avoiding actual contact that might smudge her makeup. Traffic was absolutely insane coming from the salon. On a Tuesday afternoon, while I was working my second job to afford rent on my studio apartment. Mom immediately fawned over Emma's new highlights, gushing about how gorgeous she looked, while barely acknowledging that this was supposed to be my day. Dad fired up his lecture about Emma's brilliant marketing internship at some startup downtown, conveniently ignoring that I'd recently been promoted to senior graphic designer at my firm after 3 years of grinding. Emma's boss says she has real potential for leadership. Dad announced, flipping burgers with unnecessary aggression, says she might fast-track her to account manager within 6 months. "That's wonderful," I replied flatly, watching Emma fidget with her obviously expensive bracelet. "What's the company called again?" Emma's pause lasted just a beat too long. "Oh, it's a small firm. You wouldn't know it. Very boutique, very exclusive clientele. Very vague, very suspicious. The real kicker came during cake time. Mom had ordered my favorite red velvet cake from the bakery I'd mentioned loving, which actually surprised me. For about 30 seconds, then she started the speech. "We're so proud of both our daughters," Mom began, her voice taking on that syrupy tone she used for neighborhood gatherings. "Sarah's doing well with her little design job, and Emma is just absolutely flourishing in the business world." Little design job. I'd been supporting myself completely since 18, while Emma lived rent-free and somehow afforded luxuries I couldn't dream of. Dad joined in, raising his beer. "Emma's really the ambitious one. Sarah's always been more content with simpler things. Content with simpler things. Like paying my own bills." Emma beamed under their praise, not even pretending to deflect or include me in the conversation. She launched into an elaborate story about some client presentation she'd supposedly nailed using business buzzwords that sounded rehearsed and hollow. Mom and Dad hung on every word like she was delivering a TED Talk. That's when Dad made the comment that changed everything. "You know, Sarah, you're really not half your sister when it comes to drive and ambition." The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Not half my sister. In front of the extended family who'd gathered for what was supposed to be my birthday celebration. Aunts, uncles, cousins all nodding along like this was perfectly acceptable commentary for the birthday girl. Emma didn't even flinch, she just smiled that practiced smile and took another delicate bite of cake. But I'd had 3 years to prepare for this moment. 3 years since I'd accidentally discovered the truth that explained everything about Emma's mysteriously comfortable lifestyle and my parents' obvious favoritism. 3 years of watching them pour money into her fake facade while treating my actual accomplishments like consolation prizes. I set down my fork and smiled. The kind of smile that should have warned them, Then start paying her rent like you pay mine. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's fork clattered against her plate. Mom's face went through several shades of pale before settling on paper white. Dad's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "What?" Emma whispered. "I said if I'm not half the woman she is, maybe you should start paying her bills like you've been paying mine for the past 4 years." Uncle Mike shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Cousin Jennifer suddenly found her phone fascinating. The neighborhood friends Mom had invited to show off her perfect family were staring at their cake like it held the secrets of the universe. "Sarah, what are you talking about?" Mom's voice cracked slightly. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd labeled Emma's Trust Fund. Screenshots of bank transfers, property records, payment confirmations, all meticulously documented over 3 years of playing detective. I'm talking about the monthly payments to Emma's apartment complex, the car loan you co-signed and then paid off, the credit cards you've been covering, the fake internship at your friend's company, where she shows up twice a week and gets paid for full-time work. Emma's designer composure crumbled like wet cardboard. "Sarah, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. You've been living off Mom and Dad's guilt money while they told everyone how independent and successful you are. Meanwhile, I've been working 2 jobs thinking I was the family disappointment." Dad found his voice first. How did I find out?" "Easy. Remember when you asked me to house sit 3 years ago while you went to Cabo?" Emma left her laptop open. Bank statements, email confirmations, text messages, planning which lies to tell about her fake achievements. Everything. The birthday cake sat forgotten as my carefully constructed family dinner party imploded around us. The aftermath of my revelation was pure chaos. Emma burst into tears, the ugly mascara-running kind that destroyed her Instagram-ready appearance. Mom started stammering excuses about helping family and supporting Emma's transition to independence, while Dad retreated into angry silence, his face cycling through shades of red I'd never seen before. The guests made hasty excuses and scattered like roaches when the lights come on. Uncle Mike mumbled something about checking on his car and never came back inside. The neighbors practically sprinted to their SUVs, clutching their purses and avoiding eye contact. Within 20 minutes, our picture-perfect family gathering had turned into a 3-person standoff in a dining room that suddenly felt enormous. "You had no right to go through my personal information," Emma finally managed between sobs, apparently deciding that offense was her best defense. "Personal information," it was literally open on the screen. "But sure, let's talk about rights. Did I have the right to know why my parents could afford to bankroll your entire lifestyle while lecturing me about fiscal responsibility? Did I have the right to understand why you got a brand new car while I was taking the bus to my second job?" Mom tried to step in with her usual peacekeeper routine. "Sarah, honey, we can explain everything. Emma's been going through a difficult time and we just wanted to help her get on her feet for 4 years, Mom. 4 years. That's not getting on your feet. That's being a professional dependent." Dad finally exploded. "Enough. This is ridiculous. Emma is family, and we help family, period." "Then why didn't you help me when I was eating ramen noodles for 3 weeks straight last year? Why didn't you help me when my car died and I had to choose between fixing it and paying rent?" The silence that followed was telling. They'd known about my struggles. I'd mentioned them. But apparently my problems weren't worth solving while Emma's imaginary independence was worth funding to the tune of what I estimated was close to 6 figures annually. Emma wiped her eyes and tried a different approach. "I never asked for any of this. They offered to help. You never asked, Emma. I have screenshots of you texting Mom asking for money for a weekend spa trip because you'd been working so hard. You literally created a budget for how much you needed monthly to maintain your lifestyle and sent it to Dad like a business proposal." That was the moment I watched my sister realize I wasn't bluffing. The color drained from her face as she understood the scope of what I'd uncovered. This wasn't just about the money. Though there was a lot of money. This was about the systematic deception they'd all participated in while making me feel like the family failure. "What do you want, Sarah?" Dad's voice was flat defeated. What did I want? 3 years ago, when I first discovered the truth, I'd wanted explanations. I'd wanted apologies. I'd wanted them to recognize my achievements and stop treating Emma like she walked on water while I was chopped liver. But 3 years of watching them double down on their lies while I struggled had crystallized my feelings into something much clearer and much colder. I want honesty. Complete honesty. No more pretending Emma is some business prodigy. No more acting like I'm the disappointing daughter who can't get her life together. And I want this arrangement to end. Emma's voice rose to a pitch that could shatter glass. You can't just cut me off. I have commitments, responsibilities. You have lifestyle choices that you can't afford. There's a difference. Mom tried her manipulation tactics, the ones that had worked on me for years. Sarah, sweetheart, you're being very harsh. Emma's your sister. Family is supposed to support each other. You're absolutely right, Mom. Family should support each other. So, when do I get my back support? When do we calculate how much you've spent on Emma and apply that same investment to my actual accomplishments and struggles? Dad's jaw tightened. This is about money. You want us to cut you a check. This is about fairness and honesty. And yes, if you want to get mathematical about it, I think 4 years of equal treatment is reasonable. But mostly, I want the truth. I want Emma to get a real job and pay her own bills like a functioning adult. I want you to stop lying to everyone about how successful she is when you're the ones funding her entire existence. Emma had moved past tears into full panic mode. I can't just get a job, I don't have experience. I've been focused on building my brand, networking. You've been focused on spending other people's money while pretending to be independent. The networking was apparently very effective since Dad's friend gave you a fake internship. The room fell quiet again. I could hear the air conditioning cycling on the distant sound of a neighbor's lawnmower, the ticking of Mom's antique clock that she'd inherited from her mother. Normal sounds of a normal Tuesday evening, except nothing about this was normal anymore. I need some air, Mom announced, stepping onto the back patio and closing the door with more force than necessary. Dad followed her, leaving Emma and me alone in the wreckage of my birthday dinner. Emma slumped in her chair, her perfect posture finally breaking under the weight of reality. I never meant for it to go this far, she said quietly, but it did go this far. And you let it. You let them treat me like I was inferior while you knew exactly why you could afford things I couldn't. You don't understand the pressure I was under. They expected so much because they were paying for so much. Emma, you could have gotten a real job at any point in the last 4 years. You could have been honest about needing help while you got established. Instead, you created this elaborate fiction where you're a business success story while I'm the family disappointment. She stared at her hands, her expensive manicure suddenly seeming ridiculous. What happens now? That was the question, wasn't it? What happened now that the truth was out? What happened to a family built on lies and financial manipulation disguised as love? I knew exactly what I wanted to happen next. And I had a plan. The next morning, I woke up in my small studio apartment with the clarity that only comes after a major life explosion. My phone had 17 missed calls from Mom, 12 from Emma, and surprisingly 3 from Dad. I ignored them all and made coffee while reviewing my 3 years' worth of documentation. I'd been methodical about collecting evidence, partly because I'm naturally detail-oriented and partly because I couldn't quite believe what I was discovering. Every bank statement, every Venmo transaction, every email about Emma's fake achievements, I'd screenshotted and organized it all like I was building a legal case, because in a way I was. My parents had created a financial fraud scheme, essentially. They were lying to family, friends, and neighbors about Emma's success, while secretly funding her entire lifestyle. Meanwhile, they'd let me struggle and treated my actual accomplishments as inferior to Emma's fictional ones. If this were a business, people would go to jail. The first call I made wasn't to my family. It was to my friend Jessica, who happened to be a financial advisor and had always been suspicious of Emma's mysterious income sources. I knew it, Jessica said immediately when I explained the situation. Nobody goes from part-time retail to luxury lifestyle without explanation. How much are we talking about? I'd done the math. Conservative estimate, they've spent about $200,000 on her over 4 years. Rent, car payments, credit card bills, shopping allowances, travel expenses, plus they're paying her salary at the fake internship. Jesus Christ, Sarah. That's like 5 years of college tuition. Or a down payment on a house. Or funding for someone who actually has a legitimate business idea? What are you going to do? That was the question I'd been asking myself all night. Part of me wanted to expose them publicly, to let everyone who'd heard Emma's success stories know the truth. Part of me wanted to demand equal treatment. 4 years of financial support to balance the scales. But mostly I wanted justice that felt proportional to the betrayal. I'm going to give them a choice. They can come clean publicly and cut Emma off, or I can do it for them. Sarah, that's nuclear. They went nuclear first. They just didn't expect me to have documentation. The second call I made was to my cousin Jennifer, who'd been at the birthday dinner and had texted me afterward asking if I was okay. Jennifer was the family gossip network's central hub, which made her either dangerous or useful, depending on which side she was on. "Girl, I have been waiting for someone to call out Emma's bullshit for years," Jennifer said immediately. "My mom always wondered how she afforded that apartment. We looked it up online. It's like $3,000 a month. Your mom knew, honey. Half the family knew something was fishy. Emma posts pictures from expensive restaurants every week while supposedly working part-time retail. The math didn't add up. We just didn't know your parents were bankrolling everything." This was valuable information. The family wasn't as fooled by Emma's performance as I'd thought. They'd been politely playing along while privately being suspicious. That meant when the truth came out I'd have allies instead of opposition. "What would you do in my situation?" I asked. "Personally, I'd make them pay you back every penny they spent on her with interest. But I'm petty like that." The idea had merit, but I wanted something more sophisticated than simple financial revenge. I wanted accountability. I wanted them to understand the scope of what they'd done and choose to make it right. My phone buzzed with another call from Mom. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. "Sarah, sweetheart, we need to talk about yesterday. I know you're upset, but this family crisis isn't going to solve itself. Emma is devastated and your father is furious. Please call me back so we can work this out like adults." Like adults. The audacity was breathtaking. Adults don't create elaborate financial deception schemes to enable their grown children's fake lifestyles. Adults don't let one child struggle while secretly funding another child's luxury existence. I saved the voicemail. Everything was evidence now. The third call I made was to my landlord, Mr. Patterson. I'd been renting from him for 2 years and we'd developed a friendly relationship. He was also Emma's landlord's brother, which I'd discovered during my investigation into her living situation. "Mr. Patterson, this might be a weird question, but do you happen to know how much my sister Emma pays for her apartment downtown?" Emma Mitchell, pretty girl, drives the white BMW, that's her. "Well, I shouldn't really share tenant information, but since you're family, she doesn't pay rent. Hasn't paid a dime in 2 years. Some older couple has been covering everything. Rent, utilities, parking fees. I assumed they were her parents. Bingo. Direct confirmation that Emma was living completely rent-free while I was stretching every paycheck to cover my basic studio apartment. Thanks, Mr. Patterson. That answers my question. Everything okay? You sound stressed." Everything's about to be much more okay. By noon, I'd mapped out my strategy. I would give my parents exactly 72 hours to make things right voluntarily. They could sit Emma down, explain that the financial support was ending, help her create a realistic budget for actual independence, and publicly acknowledge that her previous success stories had been exaggerated family support rather than personal achievement. If they chose not to handle it themselves, I would handle it for them, and my version would be much less gentle. I drafted an email laying out their options, attached a summary of my documentation, and explained the 72-hour timeline. Professional, clear, and absolutely unambiguous about the consequences of choosing poorly, but before I sent it, I realized I needed to have one more conversation. Emma answered her phone on the first ring, clearly hoping I was calling to apologize or back down. "Sarah, I'm so glad you called. I've been thinking about yesterday and I understand why you're upset." "Emma, stop. I'm not calling to forgive you or work things out. I'm calling to give you advance warning about what's going to happen next." Silence. "I'm giving Mom and Dad 3 days to end this arrangement and be honest about what's been happening. If they don't, I'm going to expose everything publicly. Every bank transfer, every fake achievement story, every lie you've all told for 4 years. You can't do that. It would ruin everything I've worked for. Emma, you haven't worked for anything. That's literally the point. But people will think I'm a failure, a fraud. You are a fraud. You've been committing fraud with mom and dad's help. The only question is whether you want to admit it voluntarily or have it exposed involuntarily. I could hear her crying again, but this time I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. 3 years of watching her be praised for achievements I knew were fake had crystallized my empathy into something much harder. "What do you want me to do?" she whispered. "I want you to get a real job. I want you to pay your own bills. I want you to stop pretending you're a business success when you're actually a professional dependent, and I want you to understand that what you've been doing isn't just wrong, it's been cruel to me. I never meant to hurt you. But you did hurt me. For 4 years. And you kept letting it happen because it benefited you. What if I can't do it? What if I can't support myself?" For the first time since my birthday disaster, I felt a flicker of sympathy for Emma. She'd been living in a fantasy for so long that reality probably seemed impossible. "Then you'll figure it out the same way I did when I was 18 and completely cut off. You'll get a real job, find a cheaper place to live, learn to budget, and discover what you're actually capable of when someone isn't paying your way." After I hung up, I sent the email to my parents. The countdown started now. 72 hours to choose accountability over continued deception. 72 hours to prove they understood the magnitude of what they'd done. I was betting they'd choose poorly, and I was ready for that too. 71 hours passed in complete silence from my parents. No phone calls, no texts, no emails. Emma tried calling twice more, but I'd said everything I needed to say. On hour 72, I got a single text from Dad: "We need more time to figure this out." Time's up. I'd spent those 3 days preparing for war. My documentation was organized into a presentation that would make any prosecutor proud. Screenshots, bank records, email chains, even recordings from my phone of family conversations where they'd praised Emma's success while knowing the truth. I'd created a timeline showing exactly how much money they'd spent on Emma while I struggled complete with dates and amounts. But the nuclear option wasn't a public Facebook post or family email blast. It was much more targeted and devastating. My first move was calling Emma's fake employer, Dad's friend who'd been paying her for basically showing up twice a week to pretend she had a real job. I'd found his personal number in Dad's phone during a family dinner months ago. "Mr. Davidson, this is Sarah Mitchell, Emma's sister. I need to discuss something important about Emma's employment with your company." "Oh, Sarah, your dad talks about you all the time. What can I do for you?" "I need you to know that Emma's been telling people she's a marketing manager at your firm, that she's been incredibly successful, and that you're considering promoting her to account manager. She's been using your company's name to build a fake professional reputation." Long pause. Emma helps out with some basic administrative tasks. Part-time. I was doing your dad a favor. I understand. But she's been representing herself as a business executive using your company's credibility. I thought you should know before it potentially creates liability issues for your firm. By the end of that conversation, Emma's fake job was terminated, effective immediately. Mr. Davidson was horrified that his casual favor to Dad had been turned into Emma's professional identity fraud. My second move was strategic family outreach. I called every relative who'd been at the birthday dinner and calmly explained exactly what had been revealed. I shared specific numbers, specific lies, and specific examples of how Emma's success had been manufactured while my actual achievements were minimized. Aunt Patricia was furious. $200,000, Sarah. I've been feeling guilty for years about not being able to help you more when you were struggling. Meanwhile, they were spending my annual salary on Emma's fake lifestyle. Uncle Mike was more direct. "Your parents have been making the rest of us look bad. We've all been comparing ourselves to Emma's supposed success, wondering how we were failing our own kids. This is fraud, Sarah. Financial and emotional fraud." Within 6 hours, my phone was buzzing with supportive messages from family members who'd been played just as badly as I had. The family WhatsApp group that I'd been excluded from for years was apparently exploding with outrage as word spread. My third move was the most satisfying. I discovered that Emma had been posting on social media about her successful marketing career and financial independence. Her Instagram was full of inspirational quotes about hard work and self-made success, all while she was living entirely off our parents' money. I created a simple post on my own social media, tagged Emma, and shared just the facts. Family truth time. My sister Emma has been representing herself as financially independent and professionally successful. In reality, our parents have spent approximately $200,000 over 4 years covering her rent, car payments, credit cards, and fake job salary. Meanwhile, they've let me struggle financially while praising her achievements. I discovered this 3 years ago and gave them 72 hours to come clean voluntarily. They chose silence. Sometimes, the truth needs help finding the light. I attached a single screenshot showing a bank transfer from Dad to Emma's apartment complex with a memo line reading Emma's monthly rent payment. The response was immediate and devastating. Emma's carefully curated social media presence crumbled as mutual friends began connecting dots and asking questions. Her inspirational posts about financial independence suddenly looked like cruel jokes. But the real avalanche started when Mom finally called me, her voice shaking with rage. "How dare you destroy this family publicly? Emma is having a panic attack, your father won't speak to me, and my sister just called me a liar. I gave you 3 days to handle this privately. You chose not to. We needed time to figure out how to transition Emma gradually. You needed time to find a way to keep the lie going. There's a difference. She's your sister Sarah, you've destroyed her reputation, her confidence, everything she's worked for." "Mom, she hasn't worked for anything. That's literally the entire problem." The conversation devolved into Mom screaming about family loyalty, while I calmly repeated facts and numbers. She eventually hung up on me, but not before accidentally revealing that they'd already been discussing taking out a second mortgage to continue funding Emma's lifestyle. A second mortgage, to maintain their adult daughter's fake business success performance. Dad's approach was different. He showed up at my workplace the next day, waiting in the lobby like he had the right to ambush me during business hours. "We need to talk. Privately. We can talk right here. I have nothing to hide anymore." His jaw tightened. "You've embarrassed this family beyond repair. Emma can't show her face anywhere. Your mother is humiliated. Our friends are asking questions we can't answer. You could answer them honestly. That's always an option. This vindictive crusade needs to stop now." "It's not vindictive, Dad, it's consequences. Natural consequences for 4 years of lies and financial manipulation. We supported Emma because she needed help. You supported Emma's fraud because you wanted to look like successful parents. There's a difference." He left without another word, but I could see security escorting him out through the lobby windows. My coworkers pretended not to notice, but I caught a few supportive nods from people who'd heard about my situation. The final domino fell when Emma herself posted a response on social media. Instead of taking responsibility or acknowledging the truth, she doubled down with a post about family betrayal and jealous siblings who can't celebrate other people's success. That post was a mistake. A huge mistake. Because now I had documentation of her continuing to lie even after being exposed, and I had been saving the best evidence for last. Emma's defiant social media post was the gift that kept on giving. Within hours, people who knew both of us began responding with their own screenshots and stories. Her former co-workers from the boutique, where she'd actually worked, shared posts about how she'd constantly bragged about her marketing career while they covered her shifts. High school friends posted about how she'd been condescending about their regular jobs while apparently living on family money. But the real devastation came from an unexpected source, Mr. Davidson's business partner. Apparently, Emma had been using their company name on her LinkedIn profile, listing herself as senior marketing consultant and claiming credit for campaigns she'd never touched. Worse, she'd been networking at industry events, handing out business cards with their company logo and representing herself as an executive. Mr. Davidson called me personally. "Sarah, I need you to know that we're considering legal action. Emma has potentially damaged our professional reputation and may have violated fraud statutes. We're consulting with our attorney. Legal action. I hadn't expected the consequences to escalate that far, but Emma had made her own bed by turning a family financial arrangement into professional identity theft. Dad tried one more intervention. He showed up at my apartment building at 7 a.m., looking like he hadn't slept in days. Enough, Sarah. Emma's being investigated for fraud. Your mother is having chest pains from stress. This has gone too far. It went too far 4 years ago when you decided to fund Emma's fake life while treating me like the family disappointment. I'm just revealing what was already happening. She's your sister. She's a 23-year-old woman who's been committing fraud with your help. Being related to me doesn't give her immunity from consequences. What do you want? Money? We'll give you money. Just stop this campaign. The offer that I'd been waiting for. But hearing it now, after everything that had happened, I realized money wasn't what I wanted anymore. I want accountability. I want Emma to get a real job and support herself. I want you to stop lying about her achievements. And I want an apology. A real one, not this "we're sorry you're upset" garbage. Fine, done. Emma will get a job, we'll cut off the payments, and we'll apologize. Just stop posting about this publicly. It was too late for negotiations. Emma had already forced the situation beyond family drama into potential legal territory. And more importantly, I'd realized something crucial during this whole process. Dad, do you understand why I'm not immediately accepting that offer? He stared at me blankly. Because you've lied to me for 4 years. You've lied to everyone for 4 years. Why would I trust you to follow through on promises now? You had 3 days to handle this quietly and you chose not to. We needed time. You needed an exit strategy that would let you keep the lie going. Even now, you're not apologizing for what you did. You're just trying to make me stop talking about it. The conversation was interrupted by my phone buzzing with a call from an unknown number. Sarah Mitchell, this is Janet Chen from Channel 8 News. We received some interesting information about a family financial fraud case involving fake professional credentials. Would you be available for an interview? Dad's face went gray. Apparently, someone who'd seen my social media post had contacted local news. The story was now completely out of family control. I'll call you back, I told the reporter, watching Dad panic in real time. Sarah, please. Please don't talk to reporters. This will destroy Emma's future completely. Her future was already fake, Dad. Maybe a real future will be better for her. You don't understand the pressure she was under. I understand perfectly. She was under pressure to maintain a lifestyle she couldn't afford, so she committed fraud with your help. Lots of people face financial pressure. Most of them don't create fake professional identities and mooch off their parents for 4 years. Emma called 20 minutes after Dad left, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Sarah, please, the news people called me. My friends are sharing articles about family fraud. Everyone knows now. My life is over. Your fake life is over. Your real life can start whenever you want it to. I don't know how to do anything real. I don't know how to budget or pay bills or find an actual job. For the first time in this entire situation, Emma sounded genuinely vulnerable instead of manipulative. Then you'll learn. The same way everyone else learns. The same way I learned when I was 18 and completely on my own. But I'm 23. People will expect me to already know these things. People will expect you to learn quickly and work hard to catch up, which you can do if you stop thinking you're entitled to a lifestyle you haven't earned. Will you help me? Will you teach me how to be independent? The question I'd been dreading and hoping for simultaneously. Part of me wanted to let Emma crash and burn completely. She'd earned every consequence coming her way. But part of me remembered that we'd been close as kids before the favoritism and lies created this toxic dynamic. I'll help you if you do 3 things. First, you publicly acknowledge that your previous success stories were exaggerated family support, not personal achievements. Second, you get a real entry-level job and commit to supporting yourself completely. Third, you apologize to me specifically for letting me be treated as inferior while you knew you were living off family money. And if I do those things, then we can rebuild a relationship based on honesty instead of fraud. She agreed immediately, which made me suspicious. Emma had been manipulative for so long that genuine accountability seemed impossible, but I decided to give her the chance to prove me wrong. The news interview aired 3 days later. The reporter had done her research interviewing Mr. Davidson's several family members and even some of Emma's former coworkers. The story painted a clear picture of systematic deception and family enabling that had spiraled into professional fraud. But they also interviewed Emma, who surprised me by taking full responsibility and announcing her plan to start over with complete honesty. Maybe there was hope for her after all. Or maybe this was just another performance. Time would tell. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop near downtown Dallas, waiting for Emma to arrive for our monthly sister lunch. Yes, monthly sister lunch. If you'd told me a year ago that Emma and I would voluntarily spend time together, I'd have laughed in your face. But people can surprise you even when you think you know them completely. Emma walks in, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair in a practical ponytail instead of the elaborately styled perfection she used to maintain. She looks younger somehow, and definitely less stressed, despite working 45 hours a week at an actual marketing coordinator job that pays her actual money for actual work. "Sorry I'm late," she says, sliding into the booth across from me. "My bus was delayed and I didn't want to spend money on a rideshare." The bus. Emma Mitchell, former luxury lifestyle influencer, takes public transportation and considers the cost of rideshare apps. Character development nobody saw coming. "How's the new apartment?" I ask, already knowing the answer because I helped her move into a modest one-bedroom that she can afford on her actual salary. "It's perfect. Small, but it's mine. Really mine. I pay the rent with money I earned, and nobody can take it away from me for not meeting their expectations." That's a direct reference to our parents who had threatened to cut Emma off completely when she initially refused to get a real job. Watching her face the possibility of genuine homelessness had been the wake-up call she needed to understand that independence meant actual independence, not just the performance of it. Our parents took longer to come around. Much longer. Mom spent 3 months trying to guilt-trip me into destroying the family unity while simultaneously attempting to secretly send Emma money behind Dad's back. I discovered this through Emma herself, who had started forwarding me screenshots of Mom's attempts to continue the enabling. That level of transparency from Emma was what convinced me she might actually be serious about changing. Dad's approach was different but equally problematic. He went through a phase of trying to convince everyone that I was jealous and had overreacted until the legal consequences for Emma's professional fraud made denial impossible. When Mr. Davidson's company filed formal complaints about Emma's misuse of their business identity, Dad finally understood that this wasn't family drama anymore. It was real-world consequences for real-world actions. The turning point came when Emma got her first legitimate performance review at her new job. Her supervisor praised her creativity, work ethic, and rapid learning curve, but also noted that she needed to develop more realistic expectations about advancement timelines and salary progression. Emma called me that night crying, but for the first time they were happy tears. "Sarah," she said, "I have potential. Real potential based on actual work I did." And she's right about the expectations thing. I kept assuming I'd be promoted quickly because I'm used to instant gratification, but earning advancement feels so much better than having it handed to me. That conversation happened 4 months ago, and Emma has stuck to her commitment to complete financial independence. She's learned to budget, cook basic meals, and find free entertainment instead of expensive restaurants and shopping. More importantly, she's learned to find satisfaction in genuine achievement instead of borrowed success. Our family dynamics have shifted dramatically. Extended family gatherings are less tense now that everyone understands the truth about Emma's previous lifestyle. Instead of comparing themselves unfavorably to her supposed success relatives, treat her like any other young adult figuring out life and career. She seems much happier with that dynamic, even though it comes with less attention and praise. Uncle Mike actually offered Emma a part-time bookkeeping job at his small business, which she accepted enthusiastically. "It's not glamorous," she told me, "but he's teaching me actual business skills that I can put on my resume honestly." The relationship with our parents required family therapy, which Dad initially resisted and Mom treated like a chance to relitigate my cruel exposure of Emma's situation. But our therapist, Dr. Williams, was excellent at cutting through manipulation and focusing on concrete behavioral changes rather than endless emotional processing. "The question isn't whether Sarah's methods were perfect, Dr. Williams said during one particularly productive session. The question is whether the family system was functional, honest, and fair to all members. And clearly it wasn't. Mom still struggles with accepting that her protective enabling was actually harmful to Emma's development and cruel to me. But she's made genuine efforts to treat my achievements and Emma's achievements equally, which is progress I didn't expect. Dad has been more straightforward about acknowledging his mistakes. I thought I was helping Emma build confidence by providing financial support, he admitted during therapy. I didn't realize I was preventing her from developing actual competence and independence. Perhaps most surprisingly, Emma and I have developed an actual friendship. Not the competitive, comparison-based relationship we had growing up, but genuine sisterly support based on honesty about our different strengths and challenges. I wasted 4 years of my life, Emma told me recently, as we were organizing her budget spreadsheets. 4 years I could have spent actually learning and growing and becoming someone real. You weren't ready to be someone real 4 years ago, I replied. Maybe you needed those 4 years of fake success to understand why real success feels better. She laughed. That's very generous, considering I let you get treated like garbage while I played princess. You were 23 and scared. I was 26 and angry. We're both different people now. The professional fraud investigation was eventually resolved, with Emma paying fines and completing community service, plus a formal public apology to Mr. Davidson's company. She wrote a LinkedIn post acknowledging her misrepresentation and explaining what she'd learned about professional integrity. Several people commented supportively about her honesty and accountability, which surprised both of us. Turns out people respect accountability more than perfection, Emma observed. Who knew? Looking back on that explosive birthday dinner, I sometimes wonder if I could have handled things differently. Maybe more gently, more privately, with less public exposure. But then I remember the 4 years of lies, the systematic unfairness, and the complete lack of remorse until consequences became unavoidable. Some situations require explosion before they can heal properly. Some lies are too big for gentle correction. Sometimes justice has to be served publicly before private reconciliation becomes possible. So here's my question for all of you amazing viewers. Have you ever discovered that your family's golden child was living a completely different reality than what everyone believed? How did you handle finding out that everything you thought you knew about family dynamics was built on lies? Drop your stories in the comments below because I know I'm not the only one who's been through family karma like this. And if this story of family accountability and sisterly redemption resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama with actual happy endings. Share this with anyone who's ever felt like the forgotten sibling or dealt with family financial manipulation. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for watching my journey from family scapegoat to family truth teller to actual sister. Sometimes the best revenge is everyone becoming their authentic selves, even when that process is messy and painful and requires complete demolition before rebuilding. Until next time, remember that real relationships require real honesty, even when fake relationships seem easier. Peace and justice, everyone.